Hi, I'm Joan Beck-Willette, the Enchanted Goddess. And I want to welcome to celebrating Queens Women Artists at Queens Council of the Arts. This is our third annual performance, and we are going to be rocking tonight. Yeah. First off, I want to give some acknowledgments to Queens Council of the Arts. Creativity here in Queens. Homie Krakow is a mentor of mine and it's just super awesome getting me started, and then to support an amazing lights, Melando Jones. She has just been an angel all these years. Thank you, Melando. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring up our first speaker. Before we read the first speaker quickly, the support people, the artists here. We have Maria Cora Fernandez, who is the producer of Empire Productions in the back. She's got me in front of the camera and has very lovingly and with passion for artists, put artists in front of the TV screen and given them a platform. Maria Cora Fernandez is an independent TV director, producer, and owner of Empire Productions. She directs and produces shows and cablecasts at Queens Public Television in Flushing, Queens. As a filmmaker, she's founded Artist Space, a short docu-web series that highlights emerging artists in Queens, providing them a platform to share their stories as artists and showcase their creative works. Maria is also a visual artist, like here, and she's been shown and stuff. It's just crazy good. I mean, look at this. I mean, we're in 69 and I mean, awesome, Mary. She's a member of the Society of Filipino American Artists in New York. She's one of the participating artists in the group art exhibit recently at the Philippine Center in Manhattan. As an artist, she believes in the saying Danny Keck, life is a great canvas. Throw all the paint you can on it. To learn more about Mary's work, visit www.empireproductions.com. Thank you, Mary. And this, okay, now we have supporting cast member here with Mary is Sanumala Thakori, and she is a photographer and an artist. She says here that it's always been my dream and passion to become a photographer. When I came to the United States, I took classes in Manhattan, New York to fulfill this dream. I love to help and inspire people by creating priceless, timeless memories of their lives through my photography. My photography focuses on portraits, kids, families, models, and fashion. I capture each moment with an emotion blended with honesty, emotion, and sincerity. And you can catch her photography at saniyatkaphotography.com. Thank you, Sanu. And our last support person who's a visual artist and who usually does also co-filming, the wonderful Tanya Judy. Who is part of the Enchanted Goddess Creative Arts Collective. And this season, she's created another short film. She was a judge at a film festival, and she literally created life. Tanya Judy Doykin is a filmmaker, producer, and founder of Gen X Productions. She's a producer for the Filipino American News magazine, I Am Pinoy Proud Ako. She also worked in conjunction with Empire Productions on a docu-series, Artist Space. Now, we'll go on to the show. First artist leader speaker, the Incandescent, Wendy Angulo. Wendy Angulo is a New York City-born Latina, raised in Caracas, Venezuela. Wendy is a mother, writer, lawyer, and founder of Wendy Angulo Productions. Wendy rediscovered her love of writing in the summer of 2011 after attending a spoken word event in Queens. She then joined the New York City Latina Writers Group, where she has been an active member and has taken the role as the organization's program director. Wendy is an essayist who currently is working on her memoir. Shout out. She has read her work at several venues throughout New York City and has been published twice, not once, twice, in an online journal, Mom Egg Review, also the Kenyan Review. She is a 2016 VONA alum, a contributor of Latina Executive Magazine by Proud to Be Latina, co-curator and producer of Letros, the Latina self-published book fair, the producer of Elephant, a Korea film created and produced entirely by women of color to fight against street harassment, sole co-creator of producer of Canvas of Words, an art showcase and poetry showcase that birthed Wendy's desire to bring art, and most recently the creator and editor of Lifting the Burden of Shame. Wendy continues to scout for new talent, build new connections, and create platforms that perpetuate the arts and strengthen the literary community in New York City. For more information on www.wendyangulopproductions.com. Without any further ado, let's welcome Wendy up to the stage.
Thank you so much for being here and joining us in this super important celebration of women in a time where it is absolutely great to be a woman.
Hell yeah.
Woo! And I want to thank the Queens Council of the Arts for inviting me to this celebration. A special thank you to Joanne for always supporting all my endeavors and for giving me my first opportunity as a keynote speaker.
Woo!
I consider today a defining and important milestone in a blessed and incredible journey. I have felt a lot of pressure for the past few weeks because I wanted to write something very special. So my hope for tonight is that my story serves as a source of inspiration to each one of you in the pursuit of your dreams. For those of you who don't know much about my background, I was born in New York City in the county of Queens and raised in Caracas, Venezuela. I come from a lineage of women who work hard during a time where women were told to stay still, to be quiet, and to do as they were told. The women in my family challenged all of that. From my abuelita, who was never afraid to speak up, and who taught me to speak up when I believed to be right, to never be afraid. To my mother, who always reminded me that I was loved and that a good education was the ultimate key to succeed, that there were no limitations to what I could accomplish, only those that I would impose on myself. My mother was the first woman in her family to graduate from a bilingual college and the first one in her generation to become an executive assistant for an international company, Pepsi. She was also the first woman in her family to getting a divorce in a time when divorce equals shame and judgment. As I witnessed her silence the naysayers, I also witnessed how she raised her 2 girls on her own, providing them with the best tools you could ever provide a child with: love and an education. From as far as I can remember, I witnessed my mother challenge the status quo of what a woman could aspire to be, dream, and achieve. Everything she set her mind to, she achieved. She struggled, but she never gave up. She worked hard day in and day out to provide us not only with lots of love, shelter, food, education, but also with a love for art and an understanding that art is as much as part of your life as it is breathing. At the age of 7, she gifted me with my first journal. And as she handed the journal, she indicated that the purpose of this journal was to document my story. To write about those things that I see in the world and how they make me feel. To write about my dreams and how I will achieve those dreams. She constantly encouraged me to dream big. That I could aspire to be anything I wanted to be as long as I set my mind to it, but that I should work hard. That dreaming was not enough, that I have to put in the work. And so I did. I worked hard in school. I put my hands in everything I could put my hands to. Books, extracurricular activities, plays, and in elementary school, I created the first talent show. I wanted to give my friends a platform to express their creativity. To act, to sing, to impersonate. It was my own version of Sábado Gigante. I was the producer, I was the host. I participated in every play, in every art exhibition. Then, in junior high school, I created the first student organization. I wanted to give us a voice to spark change in the school so that we can improve what we already have. Later on, I joined the National Federation of Students, which sparked in me an interest in social justice and an interest for the law. So I decided I was going to become an attorney. And when I graduated high school, I was also admitted to one of the top Latin American law schools. And in 1998, I graduated as an attorney. I told my mom, it's time for me to return home, New York City. I want to become a lawyer in New York City. So in the summer of 1998, I arrived in JFK with a bag full of dreams and a plan to set in motion. But soon I learned that not everything goes as you plan. And despite my efforts to join law school and go after my master's, I encountered people who told me that I was setting my sights too high. That a woman like me, a Latina with a thick accent, couldn't achieve those dreams. People who tried to put me in a box. A box that fit their constraints expectations of who I was supposed to be. I encountered numerous challenges from a lack of information and willingness to be helped to financial constraints that made it almost impossible for me to register in school. After a while, I began thinking that maybe I was dreaming too big. But my determination was bigger and stronger than their expectations of these people. So with $500 in my pocket, I applied for a job in a clothing store. And I registered in the nearest public library for free English classes so that I can polish my speaking and my grammar. One day, while I was working in the store, a customer who was so happy with the way I helped him offered me a job on the spot. He was a lawyer. From that day on, I have joined the legal workforce of New York City, and I have worked my way up. 18 years later, I am a senior paralegal and an office manager to one of the top law firms in New York City that specializes in medical malpractice and personal injury. My boss, a woman, has pushed me and inspired me to achieve my dreams. Working with her, I have learned to navigate spaces and handle situations where women are constantly underestimated. But she has always told me to never tone down my power and to be absolutely unapologetically about it. Some of you might think that I have failed because I did not achieve my dream of becoming an attorney in the United States. I did not fail. Although I did not graduate as an attorney in New York City, my law background and my experience has served as a solid foundation for the pursuit of my arts career and my entrepreneurship journey. One thing I have learned during my lifetime is that there's no such thing as failure. Failure is nothing more than life trying to move you into a different direction. It is in our darkest times when we learn the most, and that is the key, to learn from every experience. Just learn. Every experience is there to teach you something, to put you in the direction of who you really are and into your purpose. And this is how life has pushed me into where I am today. During one of the most painful and darkest times in my life, I was invited to attend an open mic in Queens in the summer of 2011. There, I heard stories from women who look like me, who have experienced stories like my own, who use their creativity as a way of healing. As I left the space, I was inspired and didn't feel alone. Hearing those stories sparked something within me that made me pick up the pen and write again. That event brought me to the New York City Latina Writers Group, an organization that has provided me with a safe space to tell my story, to dream big, and to give room to the idea of Wendy Angulo Productions and Canvas of Works. This organization has not only supported me and all my endeavors, but has granted me with mentors like Alicia Nabeb Santos, Nivia Castro, and Vanessa Martir, who believe in me, in the power of my voice, and have pushed me to pursue my dreams. As I surrounded myself with all these talented artists, I saw a need for space that would give these artists a platform to showcase their art, for their stories to have a home, and for our community to connect with art. And this is how Canvas of Words was born. I worked hard day in and day out for 6 months straight. Every minute was accounted for. And as I inaugurated the show in the fall of 2013 to a sold-out crowd of 200 people, I witnessed the effect the show had in the audience. And at that very moment, I discovered my purpose, my calling. This is what I was born to do. I must point out that in the beginning it wasn't very clear that this was my purpose. There were times where I questioned the decision to follow this dream. But again, my determination to succeed was bigger and stronger than the fear of failure. I did not stop. I I knew in my heart that this event was necessary and that it will not only change my life, but the life of those who participated, attended, and the way that art was viewed in our community. The success of the show laid out the plan for me to become an entrepreneur and an advocate for the arts. For the past 5 years of my life, I have built an organization that provides a platform for artists to showcase their art, encourage artists to pursue their dreams. I have used my voice not only to tell my story, but also to create awareness of the numerous dreamers and doers that exist among us, who are making a difference, who through their art are telling our stories. Because today, more than ever, our stories matter, and they need to be told and heard to reclaim our place in history. This organization has given me an opportunity to build connections and partnerships with numerous grassroots organizations who, like me, have a deep love and commitment to the arts. I have created events that have evoked change in the way art is perceived and experienced within the community, and have stirred an interest in people who will not normally be interested in art. Although I have encountered numerous challenges, from funding to breaking imposed barriers of shame, judgment, and disbelief of what I am capable of doing for simply being a woman of color, I wouldn't change anything. My determination and perseverance has always overweighed these challenges. Today, as I stand in front of you, I am reminded that this is my purpose, that all this work has not been in vain, that I have made and I'm making a difference, a change in my community and the world, but most important than my work, has inspired and continue to inspire the countless women and little girls that have been told that their dreams are too big and that they are not enough. I am here to tell you that you are enough and that your dreams are big and absolutely possible to achieve, that you have the power within you to turn them in a reality. But you must do the work. Be true to yourself. Use your power to uplift not only yourself but others. Inspire and be inspired. The true reward of all the work I've done is in the life He has touched and impacted that go beyond the doing. And this is my legacy. Thank you.
We have our second keynote speaker, artist leader, Bridget Bartolini. Bridget Bartolini is a socially engaged artist and educator who uses story sharing to strengthen community connections. Inspired by her love of New York City, her belief in the power of storytelling as a tool for social justice, and her frustration with the lack of cultural programming in areas like her home neighborhood in South Richmond Hill, Queens. Bridget launched the 5 Borough Story Project 2013. Under the 5 Borough Story Project, she produced community storytelling events that bring New Yorkers together. Her creative process involves working with community members, organizers, activists, and artists to collaboratively create tributes to people and places that make up our homes. Bridget holds a master's in community education from Columbia University's Teachers College and was a 2013 Create Change Fellow and a 2014 commissioned artist with the Laundromat Project. And and a 2015-2016 Creative Community Fellow with National Arts Strategies. And as an artist in residence with More Arts Engaging Artists, 2016 Housing Justice Residency. And her website is www.5boroughstoryproject.org. So let's bring in Bridget Bartolini.
So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you so much, Joan, for inviting me to be part of this. So my name is Bridget Bartolini, and I have an uncommonly strong love for Queens. How many people here live in Queens? Wow, okay. How many people here grew up in Queens? Awesome, but well represented. So I was born and raised in Queens, into a family that is exceptionally good at keeping it local. So both my mom and my dad were both born in South Richmond Hill. Yeah. We both grew up on 117th Street, a couple of avenues apart from each other. And they went to different schools, but they hung out in the same schoolyards as neighborhood kids do. And they were high school sweethearts who got married, and they had 3 kids. So my sisters and I grew up in the same house that my grandparents had lived in. And so to understand my story, you need to know a couple of things about South Richmond Hill. So I know some people here know but how many people know where it is? Okay, so it's like in between Jamaica and JFK Airport. Where I live, it's the last stop on the A train to Lefferts. So the A train like comes through Brooklyn and then up into Queens, and it splits, and like one goes to JFK Airport and the Rockaways, and the other one goes up a little bit to Lefferts Boulevard. So I grew up there at the end of the A train to Lefferts Boulevard. So last stop on the periphery of New York City. And Richmond Hill is a pretty typical outer borough neighborhood in that it's a working class neighborhood. There's lots of immigrants. It's very culturally rich, but yet deprived of public resources. And my neighbors came from different countries all over the world, from Colombia to Bangladesh to the Philippines, but mostly Indo-Caribbean. Richmond Hill, South Richmond Hill is known as Little Guyana. And so it was a really wonderful place to grow up. And I lived right around the corner from Liberty Avenue, which is the main street in the area where the A train runs along there. It's elevated up in that part. And so I used to like play under the A train, and like Liberty Avenue was just my playground. And like we would go in all the stores. I knew every store on Liberty Avenue. So of course as a kid, there was like, what attracted me the most would be a pet shop that used to be there, a candy store. But there were also like right on the corner, there was the store, this is 1980, so they sold cassette tapes with like reggae, soca, calypso, chutney, and Bollywood music. There was of course the stores where you could rent your movies on VHS tapes, and like the Bollywood store that always had posters of Shah Rukh Khan in the window. He was like the biggest, he was the biggest Indian actor. And yeah, it was just like, you know, there's all fruit and vegetable stores with all like the produce out there, and like shops selling saris and jewelry. So it was like this beautiful, like colorful, really noisy place. And I loved it. And especially since my family had such deep roots there, I grew up feeling very, very connected to it. But yet somehow, despite all that, there was like this pervasive kind of message that I should be yearning to leave. There was this message that like making it means getting out. And so especially like I was this smart, dorky kid who was identified as like having potential, and I was going to be a success, and I was going to make it out. So I followed that path without even really thinking about it. I went to Stuyvesant High School, which is a magnet school in Manhattan that attracts kids from like all corners of New York City. So, sorry, I'm congested. So for high school, I started doing that daily commute, taking the A train from Lefferts to Chambers Street, and I made friends from all different parts of the city. My best friends were from Parkchester and Flushing, and I even made friends from Staten Island. go and visit all these different parts of the city that I had like not known anything about before, and it was very eye-opening. And I especially saw like how there's such inequity in New York City, how some neighborhoods have so much and some neighborhoods have so little. And after high school, I went to college in Ohio, and that was culture shock. It was a good experience, but yeah, it was very, very different from Queens. In Ohio, it was like not diverse, nothing at all like Richmond Hill or New York City. And then I studied Japanese, and I got my first job in Japan. So I was working in Tokyo, which is the most diverse place in Japan, yet still not diverse at all. It's like even more homogenous than Ohio. And so like living in these two places really opened my eyes and helped me appreciate things about Queens and New York City that I had just taken for granted before. And I don't know if I would love Queens in the way that I do now if I had never left. But I always knew, like, even though I lived in Tokyo for 3 years and it became my home, I knew that I wanted to go back to where my family and where my best friends and my oldest friends were. So after 3 years, I decided to break up with my boyfriend and quit my job. So I went from like a young working professional woman to a single, broke, unemployed woman living at home with my mom. And I felt very, very happy. I was back in New York City, and I was back in South Richmond Hill, and it felt so good. Like the whole time I was in Ohio and Japan, I would like come back and visit as much as I could, and every time I would like leave my house and like step out and turn onto Liberty Avenue and like breathe in that Liberty Avenue air. Like I go home. And when I came back from Japan, it was like the end of the summer, and everyone knows summer is the best time in New York City. And like I remember one of the first weekends, my sister took me to the Brooklyn Museum's first Saturday event, and I was like, whoa, it's a party in a museum, like this is crazy. And I was doing like just every day there were like so many fun, culturally enriching activities to choose from, like concert in the park, or a film in the park, or a lecture at a library. And there were all these public programs that, even though I was unemployed, I could go to them because they were free. And there was not like this richness of public programs when I was growing up. And I feel like in so many ways, New York City is becoming a more and more difficult place for people who are not healthy to live. And so I was really excited by these public programs because I was like, this is one of the few ways that in a small way that quality of life is improving for New Yorkers who don't have disposable income. And so I was really excited and I wanted to be part of that. But of course, participating in these public programs meant enduring long train rides to Manhattan and Brooklyn. And I really felt like I wanted to do public programming in neighborhoods like Richmond Hill. And I wanted to do things that like connected New Yorkers to our history, to like our local history, and that gave us more opportunities to have positive interactions with our neighbors, because we definitely don't have enough opportunities for that in our daily lives. And yeah, I had all these ideas, but I didn't know what to do. So I decided to go back to school. And I got my master's in community education, and I was very inspired by my advisor, who had done work, research in storytelling. So my advisor, Hope Leichter, had studied about the way that we learn from stories, how we pass on stories and pass on lessons through the stories, how we all humans think in terms of stories, and also the way that the act of sharing our personal stories has this incredible power to build connections between people and to help us move past simplistic conceptions of other people and places and develop more complex and nuanced and truthful understandings of others. So I was like, yes, I know that storytelling is a tool that I want to use. And I was interning at the Bronx Museum when I was in school, and they gave me a great opportunity to start a new public program. And so I was able to put my ideas into practice, and I started a program called Bronx Stories, where people told stories about the Bronx, and also shared like music and poems and other art that was inspired by the Bronx and by artwork in the museum. So the feedback that I got from that event, the series, let me know that I was doing something right. So people said things like, tonight proves that the Bronx isn't all bad. And this shows me that we're not this backwards place people like to think we are. And things like that really struck me because they articulated this feeling that I know very well and that I think a lot of people who grow up in the outer boroughs know very well. This sense that the outer boroughs are in some way less than or not really part of this idea of what New York City is supposed to be. And I wonder if people here have had this experience that I've had when you meet someone for the first time and they ask you where you're from and tell them New York City. They're like, oh, really? What part of New York? And I say, Queens. And they're like, oh, so you're not really a New Yorker. I'm like, yes, I am. The people of Queens are the greatest part of New York City. But yeah, I mentioned how South Richmond Hill is really culturally rich, but it's not the kind of culture that gets celebrated. Like the only times South Richmond Hill appears like in the media, it's reports about crime. Or occasionally like a New York Times reporter will venture out and discover the guy who's on the A train and like rave about the roti shops and the people who look Indian but sound Jamaican. Chinese accents don't sound like Jamaican accents, but like, you know, they write things like this. So yeah, I just felt like, why shouldn't the culture in neighborhoods like South Richmond Hill be celebrated? And when it is, why is it done in a way that's like exotifying it? And why aren't the stories of these neighborhoods being told by the people who know it best, by the people who live in them? And why can't we like define these neighborhoods in our own words and on our own terms? And I was also wondering, what if instead of focusing on getting out, people in neighborhoods like South Richmond Hill had more opportunities to appreciate what we have and to build on what we have. So I was thinking about all these things, and that led me to create the 5 Borough Story Project. So I launched it in 2013, and it's a program that produces free community storytelling events that bring New Yorkers together through sharing true stories and art inspired by our neighborhoods. And we travel throughout the 5 boroughs, doing these community events that they all look really different because each one is like really tailored to the neighborhood where it takes place. And each event is produced like with a lot of collaborators who are from the neighborhood, like people and grassroots organizations. And they happen in places as different as like parks and museums, bars, on street corners, but they all have 4 things in common. So 1, they are all free and open to the public. 2, they all have curated performances by people who have true life stories about their neighborhood, but also like poems and songs and like other art inspired by the neighborhood. 3, they all, in addition to those performances, have participatory elements. So it might be a story circle or an open mic or a discussion forum or a writing activity, but some kind of outlet for everyone who participates to like express themselves, to share their own memories and stories and concerns. And the 4th thing they all have in common is that they're organized with a cultural organizing framework. So I learned about cultural organizing through the Laundromat Project. Do you guys know about the Laundromat Project?
Yeah.
Sorry. For those who don't know, just gonna grab some water. The Laundromat Project is this really awesome nonprofit arts organization. And basically it was started by a woman who recognized how most people don't have leisure time to like go to arts institutions, and so they started doing like art workshops in places like laundromats. And so I was like, wow, I found out about it when I was like just graduating, and I applied for a job there, and I had an interview, and I did not get the job. But when they called me to tell me that I didn't get it, they also said, you should apply for our fellowship. And I was like, that's a fellowship for artists. And they were like, yeah, you should apply. So now remember, my background is in community education. I did not think of myself as an artist. That was because I had a very narrow idea of what an artist is. I thought artists are people who paint pictures, sculpt sculptures, take photographs, and I didn't know about socially engaged art. But I'm really glad that I applied for that on-demand project fellowship, because then I learned about this world, and I found out that this thing that I had created, the 5-borough story project, that I was just doing intuitively because I felt like this was right and this felt needed, that there was actually a term for it, socially engaged art. And I was like, oh my God, like, it felt so good and affirming. And I learned about like socially engaged art principles and cultural organizing strategies that helped me give it structure and basically like values like promoting neighborliness, about working really closely with communities and listening deeply to each other, building relationships and trust over time, being collaborative, doing work that's propelled by love. These are all socially engaged art principles. So yeah, when I started the 5-borough story project, I had no money whatsoever. We just started doing storytelling events, and for the first few events, we'd like put out a bucket for donations and then like split that between the storytellers and the organizers. And it's grown a lot since then. It continues evolving. And when we started in 2013, a typical event was focused on like having fun, right? Challenging stereotypes, having a cultural event that like connected neighbors to one another and celebrated a neighborhood. And it's grown now so that like in 2013, I think we did great things, but it was usually like a one-time event. And now we usually do series where it's like takes more time, and we do a bunch of like storytelling workshops with community members that then lead up to an event with performances of stories and art. And so actually the first event where I put that model into practice was in Richmond Hill. Richmond Hill Love Letter, and Wendy Angulo was one of our storytellers. And that was the first event where I too was a storyteller. So it was very, very special for me. And as the 5-borough story project keeps evolving, as I kept doing events, I guess I realized that it's very important to use the 5-borough story project platform to amplify the work that's being done by activists and community organizers. So since 5-borough story project events have this power to like create connections between people and to build solidarity, and those kind of connections are the most important element for any community organizing work to be a success. So I feel like it can really strengthen work that's being done to make our neighborhoods better places to live. We've been particularly focusing on how we can use storytelling to resist gentrification and displacement. We also, I feel like it's really important hearing stories about the past and imagining the future based on those stories. Because when we hear stories about the past, we realize things have not always been the way that they are now. And we see some alternatives to the way things are now. And we can think about what we want to preserve from the past and what we want to change. And it helps us imagine new alternatives. And of course, imagining alternatives is the first step towards making them a reality. So with the 5-borough story project, we're strengthening relationships, we're unleashing people's imaginations. And when we move forward with unleashed imaginations and strong relationships, we're better equipped to dream up a new world and to bring it into being. Woo! Woo!
All right. Our next artist leader is going to do a performance. And her name is Audrey Dimola. celebrated for her dynamic presence on stage and on the page. Queens, New York City, Audrey Dimola is a poet, performer, curator, connector, and lifelong artist. She is also, wait for it, the Director of Public Programs at her beloved Socrates Park. She has been featured on New York 1 TV and Queens Public TV and has curated shows for LaGuardia Performing Arts Center, I think I got a show coming up, the Historic House Trust, the Queens Museum, and performed in venues around New York City, including the Queens Council of Arts, the Bowery Poetry Club, Brooklyn Museum, the New York Poetry Festival, riding her bike, climbing trees, pushing the edges of reality, and of course, stoking the flames. AudreyDimola.com. Come on up.
I'm just saying I'm gonna explode from like this energy in the room. I love you from like the moment you called me and I heard your enthusiasm through the phone. I'm so grateful for the space that you always create here. Milando, you hold it down here. You touch on the arts. And I'm just so grateful that this is my community. And it's incredible for us to stand here and enjoy because these are the moments that we need. This is the payoff, and that's what I feel right now, especially releasing this book, which is 3 years of my life into this book called Wild Light. This is one in homage to all my fiery, fiery women. Wild Light has also been the process of owning my body, my heart, my sexuality, my fierceness, my wilderness. So this is called Lazarus Was a House on Fire, woman. 1. Well, aren't you a fascinating creature? He mouths through mists of drink, and I don't think he recognizes the perceptivity of that word choice. And no, I don't mean fascinating, I mean the other word, the one reserved for the feathered and furred and women like me whose bones sing songs like fires in a landscape. In my belly, there's a house in flames, and I lit it. Those rarities of space in which you can stand inside are nakedness, human incantation of the wild woman, incarnation of the burning. She was the one who taught him. He never saw the body as an altar, how to nourish a universe with your own blood, selfless. Woman, you need no scripture to remind you what is inherently yours. This is dancing in the temple with feathered wings. This is the vibration you came from, grounded. This is the deer you locked eyes with in the mists before sunrise. This is the presence you came from, persist. This is the ocean you crashed through on New Year's Day. This is the shock and the aliveness, laughing. These are your mother's hands, your grandmother's throat, arms that scale the walls, and legs that make roads. Whether blamed or exonerated, whose hand lit the match? I tell them I did. I did it to remind myself how to be brave enough to rebirth, how to be whole enough to remain free. When asked, what would you save from a house on fire? I say a torch. The fire, me. If I took my clothes off in front of you, would you press your palms against the windows in my flesh? Try to suffuse the light, always stretching outwardly. Try to bind the slivers that split between your fingers, the smoke that pours from my bones. Each expression inside the gesture, he said, is what's precious. So what lives inside this moment, this breath, this hand over hand, earth under fingernails, climbing this holy stillness in the middle of the night, your skin I lull to comfort, my blood transfigured as eternal mother, these eyes filled with emotion that never quite spills, just wells, just stays when I met myself in the bent mirror at the cloud gate for the first time, seeing with a capital S, stretched like all the light from windows, like all the restless fingers, like I know my womanhood is wilderness and I will go to the grave defending that, because I've been inside the ground. I've dug that pit. I've laid with the mud uninhabited. I know what it feels like to surrender your eyes and your heart and your throat, not to God, but to nothing. But I am self-willed. The word wild is a contraction of the word willed, and this is self-willed land. This is bones cleaving so shoulders can crack and wings can breathe, fan full against the space, inward seeking wonder. I said I saw myself in the ground. He said in the gesture is the treasure. What do I want my fellow souls to remember? See me as the movement of standing up out of your own grave. Icarus returned as the messenger. They plucked my heart from inside the ribs of Lazarus. I said my womanhood is wilderness, and I will never apologize for that.
Woo!
Freedom is very, very close to me, and what Wildlight is about, finding my own freedom and what that actually means. So this is a small meditation on that. Freedom is one of the divine's broadest and farthest reaching gesticulations in our universe. It is an energy that once you tap into makes anything possible. I personally have time after time fallen prey to the idea that once you identify and claim the precious and wild idea of freedom, bang, it's done. You get it and you're free forever. It doesn't totally work that way. The beautiful thing about freedom is that it finds you. This is not about being positive, free, and triumphant forever from the moment you claim it to the rest of your life. It's about the reality that nothing is linear and solvable in that way. Freedom is really about honesty with yourself for where you actually are. And that's why freedom is so powerful. It can find you in the darkness, at the end of your rope, inside a jail cell, in recovery, with the knife in your hand, on top of a bridge, in therapy, laying next to you in your own grave. It's not about being consumed with shame and fear and loathing for ending up there, for not staying free. It's about meeting yourself where you actually are and realizing that true freedom is the voice that whispers to you, get up. Don't jump. Stay a while. Love yourself. And focusing your gratitude and energy on that regenerative spirit is what will really keep you free. I believe we are all messengers, shamans, teachers, healers. Freedom in being yourself and being honest with yourself is a direct conduit to the divine, the soul of the universe. I say to the light workers, the light bringers, which we all are, don't get caught up in only bringing light and the shame and disillusionment when you don't or can't. The world needs your warrior songs, your songs of struggle, your trials by fire. That is your real duty. Stand as you are, speak as you are, and bring it to the world. Thank you guys. I feel it, man. I got one more for you, all right? This is called Bridge Walker. And again, as Joan said, you are the best hype lady, you know that? Come talk to me after. I have the book here tonight. I have a bunch of copies if you guys are interested. And then I'm doing my formal launch, which is as close to a one-woman show as I've ever gotten, tomorrow at QED, Ditmars, 3 to 5 p.m. So just come talk to me. You know I like to talk. Let my freedom sing from my throat, made of wings. I am a child of the feather transfiguration, incarnate. They say I channel straight spirit. I'm finally full enough to believe it. Sun at my back, warmth penetrating my wings. I receive symbols of the transcendent living. This legend is now a part of my being, and I am alive, standing straight up, breathing this mystery, encircling the air. They tell me, open your hands, root in to your power. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable and share. There is a bridge between the worlds, between what is learned and already known. Be that bridge. Use your body for the healing, for the good. Place your hands on your fellow man's heart and let the truth of the beauty flow. There is something in our spiritual bones interlaced within the crypt of all that's been buried, yet all that still exists. Whatever makes you feel resonant is a clue to your own myth. There is nothing that stands unrelated or broken off from the shift. This is a call to dig the depths of the mother-father split. What did you start believing along the way that robbed you of your ability to live? All I see is the goddess in the alcove, once empty, only filled with blue sky. I feel her arms open wider than I have ever noticed in my life. When something speaks to you, my child, you know you have to let it fly from the ether to the mouth of you as the wounded healer who tries to unlearn all this sense of oppression, knowing that as things live, they must die. There is a hunger at the heart of me to speak that truth and defy this notion of fearing I'm crazy and what I perceive is all in my mind. I'm following that star that led the wise ones, and I'm shaking out my wings. I'm accepting all the blessings that this wild journey brings. Everything inside me screams, alchemize, for there are shamans among us too, living the word made flesh through poetry. And if you feel this, so are you, rewriting the stolen pages in the holy book, the chapters that told us what was true, the actuality of who we are, all healers who free the world by heeding the muse. There is a force that wants you to hear right now. There is literally nothing else creation wants you to do but that which is perfectly, exactly you. There is nothing else creation wants you to be but perfectly, exactly you. And the wonderful thing about this is when the moment comes to arise, you realize you were standing on that bridge all along, but you just had to refocus your eyes. So believe that love can reach you and the universe is on your side. I'm here to tell you, my brothers and sisters, you are always right on time. Thank you so much.